Something happened before you were old enough to remember it, and it decided everything. Not where you grew up, not the school you went to, not the friends you made, or the jobs you worked, or the relationships you chose. Something earlier, much earlier. By the time you turned 7 years old, the person you are right now was already largely locked in. Your tendency to trust people or push them away, whether you lean toward anxiety or stay calm under pressure, how you handle failure, whether you see the world as fundamentally safe or fundamentally threatening, the emotional patterns that still run your adult life, the ones you catch yourself in and can't explain, most of them were wired into your brain before you could even read. And the worst part? You have almost no memory of any of it. There's an old saying, usually attributed to the Jesuits, a Catholic religious order famous for running schools. Give me a child until he is 7, and I will show you the man. They weren't being poetic. They were being accurate. People have known this intuitively for centuries. Science just spent the last 100 years confirming it in uncomfortable detail. Your brain at birth is roughly a quarter of its adult size, but it doesn't grow slowly and steadily. It explodes. In the first few years of life, your brain forms roughly 1 million new neural connections every single second. Not per minute, per second. By the time you're 3, your brain is twice as active as an adult's, running on twice the energy, building the most complex structure in the known universe at a speed it will never come close to again. And everything that happens to you during this window gets wired directly into that structure. Every interaction, every response from a caregiver, every moment of comfort, and every moment of fear. Your brain isn't just experiencing these things, it's using them as data to build its operating system, to decide, based on what it's seeing, what kind of world it's in, what people are like, whether it's safe to be vulnerable, whether crying gets a response, whether the world tends to come through for you or tends to let you down. By 7, the basic architecture is mostly set, not impossible to change, but set as a default, the foundation the rest of your life is built on. Here's the neuroscience that makes this more than just a theory. Around age 7, something called synaptic pruning begins. Your brain has spent the first years of your life building connections at an almost reckless pace, far more than it will ever actually need. Now it starts cutting. The connections you've used most get reinforced. The ones that went unused get eliminated, permanently. Your brain is literally deleting the paths it decided weren't worth keeping, and cementing the ones it decided were. This is called neuroplasticity. And it peaks in the first 7 years of life. After that, it doesn't disappear, but it drops sharply. Learning new things becomes harder. Changing deep patterns becomes harder. The brain that was once a constantly shifting construction site becomes something much closer to a finished building. You can renovate, you can knock down walls, but the foundation doesn't move. Now combine that with what's happening emotionally during the same window. Attachment theory, developed by psychologist John Bowlby in the mid-20th century, describes how the bond formed between a child and their primary caregiver in the first years of life creates a template, a working model of what relationships look like. A securely attached child, one whose needs were met consistently and warmly, develops a baseline expectation that people can be trusted, that vulnerability is safe, that closeness is good. An insecurely attached child develops the opposite, and those templates follow you into every significant relationship you will ever form, not because you chose them to, but because they are the default setting your brain built before you knew what a relationship even was. And then there's cortisol. Cortisol is your primary stress hormone, the one that floods your system when something threatens you. In a healthy stress response, cortisol spikes when a threat appears and drops when the threat passes. But in children exposed to chronic stress or trauma in those early years, consistent neglect, instability, unpredictability, or fear, something different happens. The stress response system gets calibrated to a higher baseline. The threshold for triggering cortisol drops. The system stays hotter, more reactive, more ready to fire. And once it's calibrated that way in early childhood, it tends to stay calibrated that way for life. Someone who grew up in a chaotic environment might spend their entire adult life feeling slightly more on edge than everyone around them, without ever understanding why. The answer isn't in their adult life at all. It's in a nervous system calibrated for survival during a window they can barely remember. Here's where it gets genuinely uncomfortable. Most of what you call your personality, your emotional reactions, your relationship patterns, your baseline mood, your fundamental sense of whether the world is safe, wasn't chosen. It wasn't built by your adult decisions. It was assembled by your brain during a window you didn't control, in response to an environment you didn't choose, using experiences you don't fully remember. The version of you sitting here right now is largely the output of a process that finished before you started school. Twin studies make this even harder to dismiss. Identical twins raised in completely different families with different cultures, different languages, different upbringings often turn out eerily similar, not just in personality but in specific habits, fears, mannerisms, even career choices. Take two identical twins. Put one in a warm, stable, emotionally responsive home. Put the other in a cold, chaotic, unpredictable one. Same DNA. Radically different nervous systems by age 7. Radically different people by 40. None of which is meant to be a life sentence. Therapy works. Neuroplasticity doesn't disappear. It just gets harder to use. Adults change. People heal. The brain remains capable of building new patterns, new defaults, new ways of responding to the world. It just takes far more effort to rewire something that got built in those first 7 years than it would have taken to build it differently the first time. Which is maybe the most important thing about all of this. You are not entirely who you chose to be. A significant portion of who you are, the part that shows up automatically, the part you catch yourself doing without deciding to, the part that drives your patterns in relationships and stress and trust, was decided by people and circumstances that existed before you had any say in the matter. That's not an excuse for anything. It's just the truth. And the strange thing is, knowing it changes nothing and everything at the same time. It doesn't erase the patterns. It doesn't rewrite what happened. But it does answer one of the questions most people carry around their whole lives without knowing how to ask it. Why am I like this? The answer started before the memories did.